The Hawaii Sports Radio Network on 95.1 FM and AM 760 presents Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ule Agbayani.
Good morning, beautiful people. It's Wake Up in the Den, Ku'ule Agbayani, Paul Brecht, and we have a very special in-studio guest. It's going to be a special Aloha Friday / Wine Friday. But before I introduce him, I did want to start off with some breaking news for all of our Pac-12 fans out there. I'm not sorry, but you guys are going to lose a couple more schools out of the Pac-12, and the Pac-12 as we know it will likely cease to exist. So, breaking news this morning, we saw it coming down the pipe, but the Big Ten is expected to officially approve Oregon and Washington as new members. So, yep, life as we know it with the Pac-12. The Big Ten will just keep getting stronger, and there will be no more Pac-12.
So
ever.
what if they just split it into two divisions now in the Big Ten, right? Where you call one like, I don't know, the Pac-12, and the other one the Big Ten. And then the winner of each of those divisions play against each other in Pasadena every year. Call it like the Rose Bowl or something. You know, they should do that. I don't love like the realignment as a like college sports fan purist. It takes away regional rivalries. I saw somebody on Twitter say it pretty well, where it's as American as it gets. It's
Oh, yeah.
squeezing every last dollar out of something that everybody else enjoyed how it was beforehand. No, it's tough to see if you're a Pac-12 fan, indeed, but also there are going to be a lot of really interesting matchups going forward as well. Like, I'll be able to find the positives in it. It's just, it was something to watch happen overnight, and then this morning as well, as it continues to go on. Did I see something about Washington State as well?
I don't know. Everything else, I don't know. I don't want to get too far into it because I don't want to take away from our time with our guests. I will leave people with this final thought, though, when it comes to the Mountain West. Because of the new, format of the college football playoff, where 6 conference champions get the automatic bid, does this mean it becomes more, more likable to stay in the Mountain West? Because if there's no Pac-12, you got to have your conference champion that will make it into that top 6.
That's fair.
And then obviously these bigger super conferences will get the automatic or at-large bids. But still, maybe you stay in the Mountain West because now the Mountain West will have that automatic bid into the college football playoff. I'm just saying, I'll leave everybody with that thought. However, we are going to have fun on this Aloha Friday and talk a little wine, something that Paul and I are very passionate about outside of sports. But I want to welcome him to the show, Dave Sedeno. Welcome. Thank you for making the time. And also, welcome home, really.
I appreciate that. Aloha, everybody. Glad to be here.
Yeah, tell everybody just a little bit about yourself. You know, obviously we've gone through it and I see all of the notes, but I want you to tell everyone what school you went and tell us a bit about your time here in Hawaii.
I'm a local boy. My family has been here from the beginning. I was born and raised here. Grew up in Kalihi. Lived in Camp Forth housing for the majority of my childhood. Even did a year at Farrington. Academics were too tough for me, so I transferred to Kaiser. From there, I served for 10 years in the United States Air Force as a crash rescue firefighter.
Mahalo for your service.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate that. And then I was offered a position at the City of Roseville Fire Department, where I served another 25 years. So 35 years total.
And so tell everyone you are the only Hawaiian-born winemaker. I think that's a fun fact for everyone to know. And you are here to talk about your wine in Pono Wines. So tell everybody a little bit. Let's backtrack. Tell everyone a little bit about what even got you thinking about doing this as a career.
Right. Connecting the dots from, how do you go from being a fireman to making wine in Napa Valley, right? That's a big canyon. I went to Napa Valley for the very first time in the late 80s. And that singular trip, that first moment that I walked into that valley, it struck me. It was like being hit by a bolt of lightning. I just loved everything about the region, about the wines, the people. And because I lived just a little over an hour away, I started making frequent trips. And every time I came back, I learned more. And every time I learned more, I wanted to learn more. Finally realized I wanted to be in the wine business. Well, I couldn't give up my day job, right? I was raised in a small family, and it's the only skill I knew. And then there were a few other obstacles in front of me. I didn't know how to make wine. I didn't have any money, and I didn't know anyone. But if you want something bad enough, you'll find a way. And for me, the entrance was to acquire a wine broker's license from the state of California. Write them a check for $500, and if the check clears, they'll give you a wine broker's license. No test required. And so the wine broker is the person who represents the small family wineries into the retail space to acquire spots on restaurants' wine lists and in wine shops. What I found out was that these winemakers were artists. They were just so good at what they did. They weren't so good at selling what they made. And that was the opportunity that I saw. And so with license in hand, I went around the valley, knocking on doors, tasting wines. And if someone's wine resonated with me, I asked if they would let me represent them to the restaurants and wine shops throughout Northern California. And it took me about 90 days to build a world-class wine book. And some of those guys today are superstars. Kurt Vengi, Philippe Melka, Grant Long. When I was getting ready to retire from the firehouse 7 years ago, I also sold my wine brokerage at the time, but they all in unison offered me, they said if I ever wanted to make my own wine, they would help. And I could use their facilities and their resources. And here we are today. That led to the creation of Pono Wines. 100 cases in year one, and this year we'll do about 1,400 cases.
Ooh, that sounds awesome. Now, were you a wine drinker at all, like prior to you even going and experiencing Napa Valley for the first time? Did you enjoy, a glass here and there of wine at all?
Not really. I was a beer guy. But, as you branch out, and that day in Napa was the first time I was actually introduced to great wine. And it didn't take long to point me in that direction from that point.
And that's so fascinating because you even you also played football over here in Hawaii with the Noga brothers and everything. So
yes.
You got a football player going into the winemaking business.
Yeah, I grew up with all the Noga brothers, and I still have bruises to prove it. Yeah. It is. I look back and I say, from where, and you know what? I mean, it's not where you start, right? It's how you finish. And so we created Pono Wines, right? Pono, the greatest word in the Hawaiian language. And I love sharing the story with people because I meet people from all over the world every week who come to taste wine with us. And I explain to them the meaning of Pono and what it means to the Hawaiians. And everybody walks away with, tears in their eyes, and they want to give me a hug. So it's so awesome to be able to share the story. And I got to tell you real quick, my Hawaiian mother, when I told her I was going to make my own wine, and she says, well, what are you going to call it? I said, well, there's a few contenders. I said, what about Sedeno Cellars? And my mom says, oh, that just sucks.
I said, kudos to mom.
Yeah, I
real.
said, but mom, I mean, that's our name. And she says, yeah, but do you care about Jones Cellars? No, all right, fair point. You got it. What else you got? What do you think about Pono? She gets quiet. She says, you know what Pono means? Well, I thought I knew what Pono means, right? Because her mom, my grandma, when she would see me, she goes, hey, boy, you being Pono? Well, as a little kid, you just think Pono just means to be good.
Yeah.
Yeah, Grandma, I'm trying. You don't know what Pono means. Go get the Hawaiian dictionary. Look it up. So I do. She called me back. Open the Hawaiian dictionary. Balance, righteousness, caring for the land, leaving everything better than you found. I'm like, I call her back. So you get it? I get it, Mom. I mean, it's a responsibility now. And
Mm-hmm.
I said, Ma, I just want to make wine. So she says, if you're going to call it Pono, you better not make crappy wine because you're representing us and the people. I was like, okay, Mom. So you know what's going to happen if you make crappy wine. I know, Mom. What's going to happen? You're going to get the slipper.
You're grown and everything, and
Yeah.
she's like, "You're gonna get the slipper if it's."
And I don't want the slipper. And about a year ago, we were here promoting our brand,
Mhm.
doing wine dinners and stuff, and ran into Kimo Kai. And my good friend Sansa Paul had brought a bottle of Hapa. And just so you guys know, you can go onto our website, ponowines.com. We have 5 wines, and they're all 4-letter Hawaiian words, all good words.
Mhm.
The Ali'i Sparkling, the Aina Pinot, Hoku, Sauvignon Blanc, Hapa Red Blend, and the Mana Cab. And, well, a year ago, Kimo, sitting around the table drinking a bottle of Hapa, and he says, "Hey, bro, you can make a wine for the UH." I go, "What do you mean? Like make a wine for the University of Hawaii?" I said, "I'm sure I can, but why?" And he says, "Well, to help us raise money." Like, okay. I said, the wheels start turning. I'm thinking, how are we going to market this wine? And he says, "Oh, by the way, we have 300,000 alumni." Like, okay, we can make a wine.
And people all across the state, and even outside of the state, that just love the University of Hawaii, even though we didn't go there.
Exactly. And I thought it was actually very humorous that a guy who never went to college can now come back and help the local school. Because the UH will benefit from the sale of every single bottle of Imua.
Mhm. And like you said, it's not where you start, it's where you're going and where you finish. But I want you to hold that thought because we do need to step aside. But when we come back, we will tell you guys all about this new special edition wine from Pono Wines, as we are welcoming into the studio Dave Sedeno from Pono Wines. And yeah, we've got a lot more to chat about on this Aloha Friday / Pono Wines Friday. We'll be back on Wake Up in the Den.
Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to Wake Up in the Den. Ku'ulei Agbayani, Paul Brecht, and the only Hawaiian-born winemaker in Napa Valley, Dave Sedeno of Pono Wines, joining us in studio to talk about his special edition wine. You guys that are going to watch this on YouTube, you can see the ginormous bottle that will be to my left with the gold UH paddle, and it's the Imua Reserve Cabernet Sauvignon. But yeah, tell us a little bit about the special edition. And I know you have the normal size bottle that you have right over here.
I do. And just a quick note, as with the Pono bottles, you know what the Pono bottles are.
Mm-hmm.
The hook and the Pono, they really pop. And the paddle pops. It only pops because that's real 24 karat gold on the bottle. Every single bottle.
Real 24 karat gold on every single bottle. That's special. Like, it makes it even more special, which I think probably is part of the whole idea, yeah?
Yeah. And most people, when I see them after they purchased and have their wines, they say, "I just can't bring myself to throw the bottle away."
No, I am guilty when there are nice bottles that I really, really love. I tend to keep them.
Uh-huh.
I do keep a lot of wine corks, which came in handy because for our Sisterhood Social, we were doing kind of like this project thing coming up on August 19th. So be sure to register, ladies. We needed a bunch of wine corks, and fortunately, I was like, you guys are helping me at least get rid of some because I will keep every single wine cork all the time. But I will definitely not throw away my nice Imua bottle for sure.
Nor should you, by the way, because I'm fresh out of college enough where it's very normal decor, house decor, to have bottles just kind of hanging up on top of the cabinets or something like that, lining the counter and whatnot. And if you have a bottle like that, why wouldn't you want that? That looks classy instead of the $8 bottles of wine that I'd buy.
So, like I said, a lot of people will be able to watch this on YouTube and see the bottle. But for all of our radio listeners, just describe it a little bit more, and then the thought process that went into the design of the imua.
So when we were creating Pono, I had the first conversation I had with the person that I make wine with jointly, Grant Long. He says, if we're going to do this project, I need two things from you. I need a name and I need a story. And the truer the story, the better it'll be for you. And if you're thinking about calling it Dave's Fire Engine Red, don't. So he says, it'll probably take you a bit, but when you figure something out, call me and we'll get going. So I called him back 20 minutes later. I said, I got it. Got what? I said, I got a name and a story, and it's a great story because it's a true story. So we met the next day on a piece of paper. I wrote Pono. And he says, what the heck is Pono? I said, it's Pono, dude. Think Bono, not Bono. Greatest word in the Hawaiian language. And I explained it to him. He says, oh, that's a great name. Then I said, okay, so where do we go from here? He wrote a phone number down. He said, her name's Clara. Give her a call. She's going to ask you a lot of questions. You're going to tell her her story, and she'll help you create your identity. Great. So the next day I called Clara. Turns out Clara's just a little white girl in Green Bay, Wisconsin. I later asked him, I said, Grant, why am I speaking to a lady in Green Bay, Wisconsin when we are in the heart of the Napa Valley? And he said, well, she's a genius. She's my wife's best friend, and she created all of our branding, which is beautiful. Okay, great. Enough said. So we speak. Long story, asked me all these questions. And she says, I have enough information. Give me about a month, and I'll call you when I have something. A month goes by, and at the time, it was called Skyping.
Pre-Zoom.
That's a throwback.
Yeah.
I haven't heard that. Oh my gosh, when was the last time I heard about Skype? That's
right.
Skype is basically like pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
And then during COVID is kind of when Zoom took over that space.
That's fair. I guess.
Yeah.
What a job by Zoom to take over the space during that. They came back from a deficit, I guess.
Yeah.
And so now we're Skyping, and I see Clara, and I noticed three things. I noticed the snow halfway up the window, right? It's December in Green Bay. I notice her screensaver on her computer, and it's a picture of a beach. And I looked at the screensaver and I said, oh, I know that beach. And I said, Clara, that picture on your screensaver, do you know where that is? She says, I have no idea where that is, but I'd sure like to go someday. Do you know where that is? I said, I know where that is. I grew up on that beach. It was Makapu.
Mm.
But the small connections,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then I see the giant Pono bottle, and it stopped me in my tracks for all the messages that were on that bottle.
Mm-hmm.
So fast forward about 6 years now, we have 5 wines. Back then, we only had 2, the Sauvignon Blanc, the Hoku, and the Hapa. All of our wines are small production, but they're highly rated wines, on the wine rating system of 1 to 100, 100 being a perfect wine. All of our wines are mid-90, upper 90-point wines. So when I took on this challenge of creating imua, I couldn't make a wine that was less than what we're already putting out. I had to step up, right? And we stepped up by sourcing wines from one of the greatest vineyards in all of Napa. That's where we started. And I could hear my mom in the background. I could hear her voice saying, if you're going to make wine for the UH, you better not make crappy wine. Because this time I'll get boat slippers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the fans. Yeah.
So we had to make a wine that was, quite frankly, we had to make the best wine we've ever made.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was the marching orders from day one. And so the Napa Valley is a truly special place. So last year, in the entirety of the United States, if everybody chipped in a little bit in terms of winemaking, right? So of all the wine made in the entire United States, California was responsible for 84% of all that wine. The next nearest state was Washington, 5%. Oregon kicked in 3%. And so the little remaining percentage was the rest of the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
Of that 84%, how much do you think Napa's responsible for?
Most of it. I don't know. I have no idea. We're both like, I don't know. We're
That's
being
a
educated
really good
here.
question. I'm once again hanging on every single word.
Yeah.
So of that 84% that California produced, because remember, California is a big
Humongous,
state, right?
yeah.
From Mexico to Oregon, Nevada in the east. Of the 84% that California produced last year, Napa was responsible for 4%.
Oh,
Other side, huh?
4%.
I would not have got, wow.
You wouldn't think, right?
Yeah.
Because when you think wine, you think Napa, right? But 4%. And that valley is only 22 miles long, 5 miles wide. There are 16 viticulture areas within the Napa Valley, and they're not created equal, right? Some are more or worth more than others. We source this wine from Diamond Mountain District. The grapes grow at 2,000 feet elevation. Of that 4% that Napa produces, Diamond Mountain is responsible for 0.5%. So this is a truly, truly special wine. And I can't tell you how nervous I was when I tasted the final product about a month ago.
Mm-hmm.
But when we did, everybody in the room just looked at each other and said, "Yeah, we did it."
Chicken skin.
I'm excited. I've been sold just listening to this. To be fair, I'm like you mentioned it, bit of a wine guy. I like my wines, but just listening to it I like things with meaning, and that's very clear in the entire selection of your wines. It's very clear that's a thought process behind it. And as you continue to describe just the process behind it and how even the choices of what you put into and the process of this, it's cool to listen to. And it's like, I don't know, it sells it even more for me, where I like supporting things that are meaningful to me, and I like supporting things that are meaningful in general. And that's what Pono has, especially in this bottle or these bottles, I should say, because it's not just one. But I don't know, it's cool. I've enjoyed listening to it, where I try and keep it off the camera enough so I lock my screen. But I'm over here checking out PonoWines.com and whatnot just to get a good grasp on what's going on.
Yeah, and I was fortunate enough to be a part of that semi-exclusive wine tasting when you first came and shared the rest of your wines with all of us and kind of told us about this new wine that you were creating specifically for the University of Hawaii. And I must say, I said this off air, but I of course have to let all the beautiful people know that I did very much like the Hapa blend is like my favorite blend I've ever tasted in my life, because blends, you just never know. And I don't really have high expectations for blends because it's a blend. Like, you're just, okay. But that one, I'm like, this is like different. And all the other wines were fabulous as well. People were asking me like what I thought about the initial wines because they heard about this new one coming out. I'm like, it's everything he says it's going to be. It's going to be delicious. And I think that's important for people to realize. And you did a fabulous job of explaining how special it is with just where the grapes are from and how limited it is. And then not only the wine itself, but once again, the bottle and the golds, and it has the UH logo. So people, again, will be able to see photos on our social media and on YouTube. But the bottle itself, that's why you want to keep it. It's a gold paddle, and it has the official University of Hawaii logo on the bottle. So I can't imagine anyone throwing away the bottle. And if you do, you can drop it off at the studio because we'll take your bottle.
That's what I'm sitting here thinking.
And, I want to congratulate, guy Kimo Kai and Vince Baltimore from the UH. They just said, "Can you do this?" And I said, "Yes." And then they didn't interfere at all. They let us, do what we do. Every one of our bottles, if you notice, there's symmetry to it. Every one of our wines, I'm to say, They're all 4-letter Hawaiian words, right? And keeping up in tradition, we decided to name it Imua, right? And I thought Imua was a great name, especially for young people just starting in life, right? Imua, push through all hardships, right? Can I read you what it says on the back of each
Yes,
bottle?
please.
Okay, so on what's inscribed on the back of each Imua bottle reads as such: Imua lives in the heart of the Rainbow Warrior. Its spirit can be felt on the campus of the on the University of Hawai'i-Manoa. Its spirit is embodied in its students, faculty, alumni, and faithful fans. Pono Wines is proud to have created this very special wine from the Napa Valley, the world's greatest and most diverse growing region. So stand with us and raise a glass as we say, Imua Ohana. Let's go, Bows.
Woo! Let's
Oh,
go, Bows.
Come
I
on,
love
come
it. That, of course, it's going to make you want to go out and get a bottle now. And probably the most important thing, not only people getting this wine will get delicious wine, a beautiful bottle, but tell everybody how anybody that buys it actually does directly benefit the University of Hawaii.
We signed, the university works with a group called Affinity Marketing. And Affinity Marketing handles all of the products that the UH's logo goes onto: hats, shirts, coffee mugs. There are universities across the country that dabble in wine. You know, they have their own little wine clubs and stuff. But I promise you this, there is no one in this country that has made a wine of this caliber for a school. And I needed to make something that they would be proud of. You know, so, and along with each bottle comes, every single bottle gets a challenge coin. That signifies the vintage, right? So every year the coin is going to be different. So as you get your bottle, you can start your collection.
Oh, yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and those are for you guys.
Oh, mahalo.
Thank you. Yeah, mahalo. Oh
This
my
is
gosh.
awesome. We got to start our collection, Paul.
Right?
Listen, I have already been sold on this. This is like, you can keep selling me if you want, but like I'm gonna order some anyway.
And so Affinity Marketing they keep everything above board. And so every quarter we will track the sales of Imua and write a check that eventually goes to the UH, right? And in our first year, this is a new project. And, you know, as much as I believed in my heart that this was going to work, I mean, we kind of took the approach of dipping our toe in the water. So we only made 80 cases, very tiny production, right? 960 bottles. If with everybody's help who gets on board and helps support this worthy endeavor, if we can get to 500 cases over the next few years, then Pono Wines is writing a 6-figure check every year to the University of Hawaii. And everybody wins, right? I mean, a rising tide raises all ships.
I love that. So we got to take a quick break again. When we come back, we will tell all of you guys just where and when they'll be able to start ordering their wine. So we'll get you all that information when we come back on Wake Up in the Den.
Back to more Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ule Agbayani on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to all of you, the beautifulest of all the beautiful people. It's Wake Up in the Den, Ku'ule Agbayani, Paul Brecht, and we are talking all about the beautiful thing that is wine with our special in-studio guest, the Hawaiian-born, the only Hawaiian-born winemaker in Napa Valley, and local boy Dave Sedeno. Thanks for hanging out with us this Friday morning and sharing all about the wine. The special Imua Reserve Cab is officially up for sale on ponowines.com, and click on the wines tab. Not only will you be able to get Imua, but you'll also be able to order some of the other ones, which you will get right away. But tell everybody the bottles aren't, so you can order it, put your order in before it sells out, because that's what we're hoping for. It's going to sell out. So you want to put in your order now, as it's a very limited run. But again, you can pick up some of the other great tasting wines while you're at it. But tell everyone, it's okay, it happens. But tell everybody about when they can expect to get their shipment of the special University of Hawai'i-Mānoa Pono wine.
So we bottled this special wine about 3 weeks ago, and it needs about a month, 6 to 8 weeks in bottle to settle down. So you can order your wines, your imua, as we speak right now, but it will be released on the 5th, the day after Labor Day in September 5th.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll get your shipment that week.
Awesome. If anybody wants to get me a birthday present, that's around the same time.
And I will say this about the actual wine in this bottle. If this special limited release that we made for the University of Hawaii, and I priced it at $195 per bottle, which may sound like a lot, but it's not when you're considering where this special juice is from. If I had put this wine into a Pono bottle, I would have charged $325 a bottle, and we would get it.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I wanted everybody to have a chance, to keep it reachable, and spread the word, share the story.
Mm-hmm.
Because the goal is to, in my mind, with the first release being only 80 cases, if we can all come together and increase production each year, if this thing sells out in a very short amount of time, I am more than happy to increase production next year by 50%. If we can keep on that track, when we get to the 500 case point, then Pono Wines is writing 6-figure checks to University of Hawaii every year.
And I think that's the most important thing that people need to realize also, is that getting this wine, you're directly helping the University of Hawaii, and you get a beautiful bottle, delicious wine. So you say that 80 cases and then to the 500, kind of explain or put it in perspective just how much that is. Like, say, how many cases would somewhere like Decoy produce?
Oh, I if I had to guess, 3,000 cases, maybe more. Yeah, so this is a drop in the bucket, but it's a meaningful drop.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very meaningful drop.
And when after this run, then the next year, when do you think that one would be available? So
Okay.
if all goes well and this one sells out, and then when do we tell people you can
all goes well?
When all goes well and this first initial run sells out and people are wondering, like, oh, when can we expect the next run of bottles? When will fans be able to expect that next run?
Okay, so right now the initial vintage of Imua is from the 2021 vintage, right? And we're in 23. The wines, the grapes that are growing on the vines currently won't be bottled until the spring. Mm-hmm. So the 22 vintage, the next vintage of this wine, it's already in bed in barrels, doing its thing.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. So it's there.
Mm-hmm.
We just need to figure out how much we want to make based on what this first vintage does.
That's fascinating. So, because like we mentioned, Paul and I are good wine drinker or avid wine drinkers. I'm sure many people
good
listening.
Wine drinkers,
good.
Well, what do you
I
mean by
I
that?
am an excellent wine drinker. But no, because I always find the process very interesting. So, in the best way possible, describe to our listeners, those that may not even really know much about wine, how that process works from the growing of the grapes and all the way through everything until we get the bottle.
So winemaking is essentially farming, right? The better practices you use to grow these grapes, that's where it comes from. I mean, it all starts in the vineyard. Napa Valley, I keep saying it's a special place. It is special because from the beginning of the valley in Carneros all the way up to Calistoga, 22 miles, there are 168 different types of soils. There are 50 different microclimates. And so what that means is if we took the exact same vine and we planted it at different areas of the valley, at different elevations, at different aspects to the sun, when it came time to harvest, if we used the same winemaking team and the same barrels, we'd have different wines. There would be subtle differences between the exact same grape stock because of where the soil, which type specific soil it grew. And just to backtrack a little bit, Napa Valley has had a really, really hard time of it over the last few years. In 2015, we had a pretty decent earthquake. We had the big fire in 17, and then we had another fire in 20. And 20 was just heartbreaking because the fire happened during the absolute worst time when we were getting ready to harvest. And so, if you think about it this way, it's like if you stand next to somebody who's smoking, if you stand there long enough, well, you smell like smoke. But our bodies can process it, and we can get rid of it. Grapes are very similar. It's easy to penetrate the smoke penetrates the skin of the grape, but it can't get out. Once it's exposed to smoke, it's done. So it was truly heartbreaking when the fire was finally out in 2020. That if you drove up the valley and you saw all this beautiful fruit, because up until then it was a perfect growing season, knowing that we weren't making wine. We didn't make wine in 17 or 20. We didn't make Napa reds, so which is why we make sparkling wine, Pinot and Sauvignon Blanc, from other areas, just so we know at least we'll have something. So.
How long does it take for the grape to grow when it's to the point where it's ready to be harvested?
So if we planted a vineyard today, this year, you wouldn't see fruit until year 3.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's a labor of love, and honestly, I think if you want to get into wine business, you're crazy. but crazy as crazy does, right? And here we are. So it's just such a long cycle. Yeah, and so. And if there had been another fire in 21 in 2 successive years, I think you would have seen 30 to 35% of the small producers, including us, probably just call it a day. Because you can't not make wine for 2 years, because all your hard work just goes away, right? Because when the store shelf runs out, they just replace you with someone else. And you start from scratch.
Especially from everywhere else in the country, because as we mentioned, just such a small percentage gets produced in Napa. So once that's done, they're like, well, we can get wine from everywhere else. Speaking of, describe the differences, because another, I guess, location that a lot of people are likely familiar with, even if you're just a casual drinker of wine, is Sonoma.
Yes.
So maybe describe for our listeners what the difference is with Napa and Sonoma, since I'm sure a lot of people hear about Sonoma all the time as well.
Yeah, if you look on a map, Napa and Sonoma are right next door to each other, but there is a world of difference. The soils in Sonoma are different. The proximity to the San Pablo Bay and San Francisco is different. Even in the Napa Valley, from the beginning of the Napa Valley and Carneros up to Calistoga, even though it's only 22 miles away, in the morning, every morning in where we are in downtown Napa, there's a marine layer that comes in. So even in the middle of August, every day you wake up, it's 50 degrees and fog. Anything that grows below 1,000 feet doesn't see the sun till almost noon. Anything above that sees the sun the minute it comes over the horizon. Sonoma, because it's closer to the bay, they get socked in with fog for hours every day. Sonoma's known for things like Pinot Noir, Zinfandel, Syrahs. Napa is cab country.
Fascinating.
You can. I can speak wine with you all day, and do this, but because it's passion, and I truly feel blessed because of the diversity of the Napa Valley. If it's 80 degrees in Carneros, it's 105 in Calistoga, even though it's only 20 miles away. And so what that means is where you are in the valley determines what you grow, right? So because we're in cool weather down in the beginning of the valley, we grow Chardonnay and Pinot. You couldn't grow Cabernet down where we are because it doesn't get warm enough long enough. And on the flip side, you don't want to grow Pinot in Calistoga, because it's too hot, it would wither on the vine. So the further up country, up valley you go, you really get into the big, bold red country.
Whoa, so it's just kind of just the different grapes and vines, and you're right. It's like this is like farming on steroids, actually. This is like intense with all the detail that goes into just a tiny little fruit and making sure it's well managed.
And that's just the beginning of the process, right? Because and then after that you add all the hundreds of different styles of wine barrels, which impart different flavors. How much of a toast did you? Because we start a fire when you make a wine barrel for the first time. They actually start a fire on the inside of the barrel to create char, and depending on how long you let it burn determines the level of char. And the oak can come from Michigan, but most of it is from France. Most of the barrels we use 100% French oak. One single oak barrel today, $1,800.
Oh, jeez.
One barrel. One barrel holds 25. Will hold the equivalent of 25 cases of wine, which is about 300 bottles. So it's a crazy business.
It sounds fun to figure out, because you said you weren't like a wine guy to start, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So I gotta imagine the entire journey has kind of been fun to like learn as you go as well, and especially it's to be successful along with it is obviously an added bonus. But it sounds like an incredibly fun time to learn and get better at your craft each time, and it's something that I mean it transcends just winemaking. It's everything that you do. I'm sure you try and get better and better each time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and there were some parallels from my first career as a firefighter. You trained, you prepared, but you never know what you were going to get. It was rarely boring, And then a second career as a wine broker, which allowed me to learn the process. First of all, I learned first off how to sell it, and then in my third career, I'm now making it. So I feel pretty well rounded, So because it's all fun and games until you have to sell it.
Oh yeah. That's the big thing
Yeah.
for us. Well, when we
Making
come back,
wine's easy.
Yeah, that's the easy.
Selling it is the trick.
We got to take our final break, but when we come back, we'll wrap things up as we are welcoming in Dave Sedeno of Pono Wines, talking all about the most important thing in the special Imua wine that will directly benefit the University of Hawaii. So we'll be back to close it out on Wake Up in the Den.
Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to Wake Up in the Den. Ku'ulei Agbayani, Paul Brecht, and local boy turned firefighter turned winemaker, Dave Sedeno of Pono Wines, joining us in studio. All right, we've been telling you guys all about what you can buy now at ponowines.com, the special Imua Reserve Cab that will directly benefit the University of Hawaii. Those that are going to watch on YouTube will see the beautiful bottle design with the gold paddle and the UH logo that's available. You won't get your bottles until around Labor Day weekend, but it's available to purchase now, and there are only 80 cases available. Well, we got a text during the break that 78 cases, because people are already starting to want to buy their cases here, because again, it's delicious wine, it's rare wine. We talked about that earlier, and it goes, a portion of it goes to the University of Hawaii. And if you missed it earlier, Dave was saying that when they reach like the 500 case mark, and if that sells out, then we're cutting six-figure checks to the University of Hawaii, and we all know that really changes the game for the UH, and the rest of us can just enjoy delicious wine. Well, you also have other things available in Napa Valley, so tell us a little bit about your boat tours that you have.
Thank you. But before I do that,
okay,
one thing I forgot to share with you guys.
Yes, go ahead.
We created the big bottle. Right, and we gifted that to the UH for them to use at all of their fundraising events. I also had this made.
Oh yes, the paddle.
Ooh.
So Mr. Frank Polano, who lives on the island of Kauai, is taught himself to basically be a master wood craftsman. You guys follow UH football or volleyball,
Yes.
right? You know the challenge paddles?
Mm-hmm.
Frank made those.
Oh.
And so if you can't see, for Frank, we commissioned Frank to make a koa canoe paddle. It's 6 feet tall. It's beautiful. They call it. It's the same size and shape that Duka Hanamoku would use. And so he lasered the H onto one side, and on the back side it says Imua. And so that is another gift to the University of Hawaii so that they can use for their fundraising events.
That's awesome.
I love cool stuff so much. Like I heard that, I was like, that's cool. That's another cool thing.
But if you do find yourself coming to Napa Valley, you have an open invitation to contact me. My number is available on the website. We do our tastings. Unlike we actually have the most unique tasting experience in all of wine country. You know, you can go to a tasting room, you can go to a vineyard, you can go to a cave and taste some wine. And a lot of you have probably already done that. But when you come to Pono, if you go to our website and hit the Visit Us tab, you'll see a short video. We do our tastings on a custom-built electric boat on the Napa River. And we chose electric in the true manner of remaining Pono, right? Because we do no harm to the river. We create no fumes. We leak no oil.
Mm-hmm.
We're as quiet as a submarine. But I have another local boy, Lauren. Everybody calls him Maui. He looks like he could be Jason Momoa's son. And he's the captain of the boat. A couple of Hawaiian guys rolling down the river, talking story, drinking Pono, listening to Iz.
Love that. Who would have thought, right? Like all these Hawaiians in Napa Valley. I love it. Oh, that's such a fascinating story.
The visual itself is like cool to think about, and that's without the actual experience, because obviously I'm a little biased. I love the water. I just love being on the water, in the water, whatever. So to enjoy a high quality wine, high quality stories with high quality company, I can't really ask for much more. I think that's kind of like the dream, right? When it comes to a wine tasting. And plus, I also was sitting here thinking, is there a better compliment? Ku, I know this is not the right person to ask this question, but is there a better compliment than to be like, yeah, he could pull off being Jason Momoa's son? You know, I know you're not the right person to ask, Ku, but you know, I don't know. It's a pretty good compliment to go along with a pretty good experience, pretty good time, you know?
Oh, yeah. And then so how many people can, like, if everyone wanted to get their friends together, how many people could you fit on the boat and a part of this wine tasting?
We go out twice a day, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. We used to go out at 3, but we cut back the 3 o'clock tasting spot because what we found is by the time you came to me at 3 o'clock, most people were already in the bag. I didn't need ladies in high heels trying to get on a boat after already going to 2 wineries, you know. So for safety reasons,
I can see that. I did the wine train experience in Napa Valley, and yeah, kind of towards the ending of you're getting up those stairs into the train where became a little difficult. So I can't imagine trying to get onto a boat.
I mean, make no mistake, everybody was happy. but they weren't very coordinated. So we go out at 10 and 1 p.m. Down on the in Carneros on the Napa River. We can seat up to 8 people per thing. And so because only 16 people at most can experience it, makes it even more special.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's awesome. And I believe I have to check with Kimo Kai again, but I want to say we are doing a part of an auction, I want to say, for the Sisterhood Social.
Yeah, we will donate a tasting package for I think it's worth like $1,500, but happy to do it.
Yeah, see, so get your friends together, go out to Napa Valley. All right, have about a minute and a half left. I'll give you some of the final words, Dave.
You know, it's for me. I know, you know, we're going to be doing that big event at Strip Steak tomorrow night. I'm going to do my best not to cry. For me, it just feels like coming full circle. You know, a kid who grew up in Kalihi, who spent the the next 35, 38 years, 40 years away from home, and to come back and be able to leave something behind. You know, I on behalf of everybody from Kalihi, I'm proud.
I love that. All right. I know we'll all try not to cry tomorrow. Everyone that has been listening to this show for a very long time knows that I am like the biggest crier and I get really emotional. But mahalo once again to Dave Sedeno for joining us from Pono Wines. Yeah, mahalo for stopping by today.
I appreciate you guys having me. It was an honor.
All right, so be sure to go out ponowines.com, and not only you can get the special Imua Reserve cab that will directly benefit the University of Hawaii, but you can check out the other awesome wines that are available. Again, very high quality wines and probably the best. And you support the local boy. At the end of the day, we want to support our own. So for Paul Brecht, I'm Ku'ule Agbayani, and for Dave Sedeno, bye.